Welcome to this new episode. Today we're going to discover Freud's theories and the revolution of psychoanalysis. At the turn of the 20th century, a Viennese doctor named Sigmund Freud revolutionized the way we understand the human mind, opening the doors to a new discipline: psychoanalysis. Freud shifted the focus to the unconscious, a hidden world of thoughts, desires, and urges that we're not aware of, but that deeply influence our actions, emotions, and mental disorders. By observing patients with hysteria, Freud concluded that many symptoms like paralysis and amnesia didn't have physical causes, but stemmed from unconscious psychological conflicts. According to Freud, the human mind is like an iceberg. Consciousness is just the tip, while the unconscious is much larger and deeper. The unconscious shows itself through symptoms, dreams, slips of the tongue, and accidents. Psychoanalysis aims to bring unconscious content to light, helping the patient understand the root causes of their suffering. With Freud, the human mind is no longer a single entity, but a field of conflicting forces, where the unconscious plays a key role. Freud opened a new era for psychology. At the end of the 19th century, hysteria was a very common illness, especially among women. The symptoms, often disabling, range from paralysis and convulsions to blindness and loss of voice, without any identifiable physical cause. Freud began collaborating with Joseph Breuer, who was experimenting with hypnosis. Breuer noticed that, under hypnosis, patients remembered traumatic events that had caused their symptoms. By reliving those moments and expressing their repressed emotions, the patients found relief. This method was called cathartic, from the Greek katharsis, which means purification. Freud developed a new method based on free association that allowed the patient to become aware of their unconscious content independently and gradually. Abandoning hypnosis marked a decisive turning point, paving the way for psychoanalysis as we know it today. In his famous book, The Interpretation of Dreams, Freud introduces the topographic model of the mind, known as the first topic. According to this theory, the mind is structured in three systems: the conscious, the preconscious, and the unconscious. Imagine the mind like a three-story house. The top floor, the conscious, is the brightly lit room where our awareness resides. The middle floor, the preconscious, is like a waiting room where mental content that can be easily retrieved resides. Finally, in the dark and inaccessible basement, we find the unconscious, the realm of repressed desires and childhood traumas. The contents of the unconscious are censored by the conscious because they are considered unacceptable or dangerous. However, they exert a strong influence on our behavior, emotions, and dreams. In the 1920s, Freud reworked his theory of the mind, introducing the second topographic model, a structural model that describes the psyche as a dynamic field of forces. The ID represents the most primitive and instinctual part of the personality. It is the realm of primary drives, like the libido and the death drive, which push the individual to the immediate search for pleasure. The ego develops from the id in contact with external reality. It has the task of mediating between the demands of the id, the needs of reality, and the rules of the superego. The ego tries to satisfy the needs of the id in an acceptable and realistic way. The superego represents the moral conscience, the set of prohibitions and internalized rules. The second topographic model presents us with a dynamic view of the psyche, in which the ego mediates between the contrasting impulses of the id and the superego. Opening the doors to the unconscious. Free association and transference. Freud developed two key tools for psychoanalytic practice: free association and transference. Free association is the main method for exploring the unconscious. The patient, lying on the analytic couch, is encouraged to freely express everything that comes to mind. The analyst tries to grasp the hidden connections, repetitions, contradictions, and slips of the tongue that emerge in the patient's speech. Transference is a relational phenomenon that develops between patient and analyst. The patient projects significant figures from their past onto the analyst, reliving unresolved emotional dynamics. Through free association and the analysis of transference, psychoanalysis aims to bring unconscious content to light, making it accessible to conscious awareness. Dreams and slips. Encrypted messages from the unconscious. Dreams are the royal road to the unconscious, says Freud. During sleep, the defenses of the conscious mind loosen, and the unconscious can express itself more freely through images, symbols, and dream stories. A dream is the disguised fulfillment of a repressed wish. However, the dream's obvious content is just a cover that hides a deeper meaning, the hidden content. Through dream interpretation, psychoanalysis decodes the symbolic language of the unconscious. Even slips of the tongue, language errors, and forgetting things are expressions of the unconscious. Dreams and slips of the tongue become valuable open windows into the unconscious, allowing us to grasp the complexity of our mental lives. Childhood sexuality and the stages of psychosexual development. One of Freud's most controversial theories is that of childhood sexuality. According to Freud, the sex drive, or libido, is present from birth and goes through different stages of development. These stages are the oral stage, the anal stage, the phallic stage, the latency period, and the genital stage. The way a child goes through these stages and resolves the conflicts connected to them deeply influences their personality structure. Trauma, fixations, or regressions to a certain stage can be the source of neuroses and personality disorders. Freud's theory of childhood sexuality emphasized the importance of childhood in the development of personality. Art, religion, and civilization. Freudian interpretations. Freud extends his psychoanalytic analysis to cultural phenomena like art, religion, and civilization. Art represents a form of sublimation, a process through which repressed urges are channeled into creative activities. The artist, like the neurotic, is dominated by unconscious forces but manages to give them expression in works of art. Religion, for Freud, is an illusion, a system of comforting beliefs that man creates to defend himself against existential angst. God represents the projection of the childhood desire for safety and protection. Civilization is seen by Freud as the result of a process of instinctual renunciation. With his analysis of art, religion, and civilization, Freud offers us a key to understanding the complexity of human nature. Freud today, his legacy and the criticisms of a giant in the field of psychology. More than a century after the birth of psychoanalysis, Freud's legacy remains controversial but important. His theories revolutionized the way we understand the human mind, paving the way for new disciplines like dynamic psychology and psychotherapy. The importance of the unconscious mind, the role of childhood experiences, and the importance of sexuality are key themes in Freud's thinking. Some of Freud's theories seem outdated today, like his view of female sexuality. However, psychoanalysis remains valuable as a way to study subjectivity and as a therapeutic practice. Psychoanalysis invites us to recognize the complexity of human nature and to explore the hidden world of the unconscious. In a time dominated by speed and superficiality, psychoanalysis reminds us of the importance of listening and relationships. Thank you for watching. See you next time.